Inheritrix Productions. Sheros and Zeros with the Moxie Sisters.
Welcome to Sheros and Zeros. I'm Roxie.
And I'm Foxie, and we're the Moxie Sisters. This is the feminist comedy podcast where we reclaim women's herstory by telling the true stories of extraordinary women who are fierce feminist fighters and super sheroes, as well as the stories of women who were extraordinary dirtbag, diabolical zeros.
Because we're here to dismantle the white heteronormative patriarchy, and we welcome you friends out there to join us as we bring these stories to light and continue the momentum of this cultural moment of truth-telling and of owning women's power and women's immeasurable contributions to the world.
And if you don't like it,
you can get the fuck out.
Hi, Roxie.
Hello, Foxie.
How you doing over there today?
You know, I'm pretty amped up. I'm like, my energy is high today. I'm not high, but my energy's high.
Me too.
And there's like a bird party outside. I don't know. So like everything around me, like the wind is blowing and the birds are having a bird party and my brain is having a bird party. So that's kind of how I am today.
Yeah, I feel you. It's like a beautiful spring day and I'm just kind of very ADD all over the place, but also super excited about this show because we've been working on these stories the last week or so and back and forth, and it's such good stuff. We've got such good stuff. So yeah, welcome to our first super special Shero celebration. In honor of Memorial Day this year, we're sharing stories of the Wonder Women of World War II. And obviously, the Second World War included countless Sheros, and many of whom we will never know their names. But today, we're going to highlight a collection of really extraordinary women, of members of what is known as the Greatest Generation. And I have 3 short bios to share, while Roxie's going to give us a couple of other stories. And yeah, but before that, I wanted to take a pause for our previously on segment because I have a few things I wanted to mention. First, and most importantly, so on our J.K. Rowling,
yeah.
or Joe-K, Rowling,
I
I quoted one of my favorite poets and artists, Alok, and I screwed up the very last word of that quote, which actually changes the context significantly, because I said radicalized instead of racialized. So let me please reread that quote, part of that quote, to correct myself, because it is still very, very important. I want to be very clear. And again, go check out Alok, A-L-O-K, awesome artist, awesome thinker and poet and writer, and you should totally follow them. Alok says, quote, "Policing and fortifying gender/sex boundaries has always been a tactic of white supremacy. The sex binary was seen as a civilizational achievement of white people, one that no other race could reach. This is why when Black and POC trans people sought support in early medical clinics for gender transition, they were turned away. Their gender dysphoria was seen as a marker of their, quote, degeneracy that couldn't be fixed. In this way, the category of woman has always been racialized."
It does make a big difference.
It makes a big difference, and it's really important.
Yeah, that's very important. I'm glad you caught that.
I caught that in the edit and was like, wait a second, I think that's wrong. Oh, no. No, I really don't want to screw that up. So thank you, friends out there, for letting me correct myself. Also on previously on, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but regarding the Divine Saint Dolly Rebecca Parton, there's a story out on the 18th of February of this year about her turning down a statue in her honor at the Capitol of Tennessee in Nashville. And the AP story says this, so in advocating for the statue, Democratic State Representative John Mark Wendell said, and I only quote him because we both agree with him. He says, quote, "At this point in history, is there a better example, not just in America, but in the world, of a leader that is a kind, decent, passionate human being? She's a passionate person who loves everyone and everyone loves her." I'm like, yes, Miss Wendell, we agree.
Yeah, we agree. I mean, I've been saying Dolly for president forever. So yeah,
right,
I'm
Dolly
with him.
For Queen for life. In her statement, Dolly thanked the legislature for their consideration of the bill and said she was honored and humbled by their intentions, but she said, quote, "Given all that is going on in the world, I don't think putting me on a pedestal is appropriate at this time. I hope, though, that somewhere down the road, several years from now, or perhaps after I'm gone, if you still feel I deserve it, then I'm certain I will stand proud in our great state capital as a grateful Tennessean."
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, she's really very tuned into what's happening. No, this is not the right time. With everything that's going on with George Floyd's trial, and hopefully we see true justice done with all of this. I mean, it's hard for me to even watch. I can maybe do about 20 minutes at a time, and then I just have to stop because I feel physically ill, and obviously we all should, but she's definitely, as you often say, Foxy, she's reading the room. Like, this is not the time to shine a light on her. There are way too many things going on right now.
Yeah.
And Saint Dolly will always be Saint Dolly, and we'll get to her. We'll get to that, but not right now.
Yeah,
no.
She's just such a responsible, beautiful, amazing person. So
she really is.
I just wanted to throw that in there. In
We
Dolly
love you,
news.
Dolly. We love you.
We love you so much. Right?
Yeah.
So, Roxy, do you have anything for the previously on segment? So far, we've done Dolly and JK and Audrey and Lorena. So those are the season 2 folks I'm, just recapping for anyone who's missed the first couple episodes.
Not really. I mean, the thing is, we're learning along with our friends. So, there are going to be mistakes along the way, but that's life. It's trial and error. And I don't have anything to add. I'm just excited to be able to do this.
Me too.
Mistakes and all.
Yeah, learning curve and all, messiness and all.
Yes.
So, okay, well, before we jump into our amazing Sheros in just a second, I want to introduce a new segment called the Shout Out Moment, or whatever we're going to call it. You down for this? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So I wanted to take this moment to shout out a friend of mine and the fantastic and important new film he is featured in, directed by Shero and Queen, Ms. Regina King. It is called One Night in Miami, and it is a fictional account of one incredible night where Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Sam Cooke, Jim Brown gathered together and discussed their roles in the civil rights movement. The night in question is February 25th, 1964, just after Ali, who was still known as Cassius Clay at this point, defeated heavyweight champ Sonny Liston. The three men gather in Malcolm X's hotel room after the fight. And my dear friend, Aaron D. Alexander, portrays Sonny Liston, the boxer, who at the time was thought to be undefeatable. This film premiered at the Venice Film Festival last September 2020 and was the first ever from an African-American woman director. So cheers to Ms. King for breaking some glass.
Yes,
also, props to the screenwriter Kemp Powers, who adapted it from his stage play. And also notable is that last year, Kemp Powers, the writer, became the first African-American to co-direct a Disney animated feature with the film Soul. So you guys go check out One Night in Miami because it's an important piece of work, and because my beloved friend and colleague Aaron D. Alexander kicks so much ass, even though technically he does lose the fight. So anyway, congratulations to Aaron. We love you. Everybody go see that movie.
That's awesome. Oh, to be a butterfly on that wall in that moment.
Shit, right? And I think that's kind of what Kemp Powers does, is like, they know that this historically happened. They were all there. They went and hung out. No one really knows but the four of them what was discussed.
That's amazing. Yay, Aaron.
Yeah,
yay, Aaron. Yay world. Yay, good.
Indeed. Yay, Miss Regina King.
Yes, Queen,
the king who is queen. Yes. Okay, so now if you're ready, we will get into our glory-deserving and fascinating World War II Sheros in just a moment. And to kick things off, we're both going to share a little bit about some of the badass Sheros in our own lineage. So, Roxy, you want to go first? Tell us what you do know. I know it's not as much as you wish you knew.
No, and there's a lesson here. Friends, ask those who are older and know the histories of your families, ask them questions while you still can. This is a very unfortunate thing. And this is part of the reason that Foxy and I do this feminist comedy podcasts is to unearth these stories because they are often lost. So my great aunt Mildred served in WAVE, and my parents are not even able to tell me where she was stationed during World War II. They are only able to tell me that she served as a nurse and cared for obviously sick and injured soldiers. And that is as much honor as I am able to give to my great aunt. And it's sad. It makes me angry. And I wish I could do her more justice because I know there's so much more to her story. But that is sadly all I have to share. So there's a lesson.
Yeah, we need to all preserve what history we can in our own lineage or our own community, whatever that means to you.
Yes.
But
yes.
And just to, I was looking this up because I kind of know what the WAVES are, but if you don't know, the WAVES, WAVES, stands for Women Accepted for Volunteer Emergency Service. So it was kind of a subset of the U.S. Navy during World War II. And speaking of family histories, I have the great privilege of having a document that my grandmother wrote for us in the late 90s that talks about her parents and grandparents, her bringing up in West Texas all through until about the point where my dad and his brother and sister were little kids. So I went back and looked at the section on her time during the war, and I want to share some of that. So her name, my brilliant, beautiful grandmother, was Geraldine Finto. She was born in 1925 in La Mesa, Texas, the third of 4 children with 2 older sisters, Rosella and Novella, which I love those names. I mean,
yes. It sounds witchy. I like it. It
does, right? It's like two old witchy sisters. I love it.
They go around doing good things. Yes.
And they had a younger brother, Don. So my grandmother graduated high school in Lubbock, Texas when she was 18 years old in 1943. So the U.S. had been in the war for a couple of years, and after finishing high school, Geraldine, who she went by Jerry throughout her life, she went to business school for 3 months, but then began working at the Lubbock Air Base. And this is what she says. So I'm going to quote my grandmother's firsthand account. She says, "Novella kept mentioning travel. She wanted to travel while working for civil service. While she was on vacation, I signed both our names on a list for what the Air Force called skeleton crews. There was such a need for people to fill vacancies in all air bases. She was very upset with me at first. However, when the idea began to take hold, she was pleased. We had a choice of several places, and ultimately we transferred to Alliance, Nebraska. This was a paratrooper training base. A large percentage of the men were fatalist because they did not think they would return. Paratroopers were in a very high-risk unit. We lived in a very small trailer houses on the base. Guards walked around the camp 24 hours daily to protect us from harm. If we wanted to see a movie at the base theater, the guard walked us there and home after the movie. We met some, quote, she literally put it in quotes, we met some, quote, really cool guys on duty."
Well, all right. Yeah.
1945 in Nebraska. It's hopping.
Yeah.
She says, "The winters were blustery there. We walked to destinations through waist-deep snow many times. We had jobs all over, but mostly I worked in the warehouse, bookkeeping, and issuing flight clothing. Once, a friend of mine sneaked us onto a plane and we flew to Omaha, Nebraska and back." Which was, she was like, that was a dumb idea, but my friend could have gotten in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, but it was worth it.
But it was worth it. It was an adventure. I mean, you got to do adventures when you're 18, 19 years old.
YOLO!
She says, "We had fun there, but before many months, we moved to Washington, D.C. I had never seen such beautiful country." You have to remember she's from West fucking Texas, which is basically a flat desert. That's
it's
everywhere
just
you look. My cousins grew up in Odessa and they called it Slow Deatha.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So she says, "I had never seen such beautiful country. Soon after moving there, we were invited to some new friends' home for lunch. Their home was on a hillside with a creek at the foot of the hill. I wandered around feeling as if I had already been transported to heaven. Redbirds, bluebirds, squirrels, all kinds of God's creatures flew and scurried about. Awesome sights. We lived in Arlington, Virginia and worked in DC. We had a small apartments in a place called Arlington Farms. Most of the secretaries of that area lived in this complex. So, girl, don't you know this was a hoot? Like all these ladies in this complex. This is like, 1946, 47. She says, weekends were great. We tried to see and do something different every weekend. I worked for a major typing top secret documents. Many times I sat in conferences taking dictation. This was a stressful part of my job. I never felt quite competent doing this, but accomplished the task anyway. Novella worked for a colonel. She was much more apt at her business abilities than was I. I marveled at her speed in dictation and typing.
Wow.
From Washington, D.C., we returned to Lubbock Air Force Base for a time. I had 2 uncles in San Francisco. I transferred there and worked at the port of embarkation. When the servicemen would return from foreign duty, we would go out on a ship to welcome them home. This was an exciting time. The men would toss coins and other memorabilia over onto our ship. After a short time, Novella joined me there. I left California in 1947. I traveled home by a train. On the train, we met several sailors. One of them was Jack, my future grandfather.
Aww.
He was still in the Navy at that time, but was returning to Treasure Island to be discharged. He kept asking me to marry him. All of the folks on the train joined in with him, telling me to say yes. Of course I did not. 2 exclamation points. Not at that time anyway, she says. He went home to Phoenix City, Alabama, and my brother and I went back to Abilene, Texas. We rented a small cottage, and I started working for Wooten Wholesale Grocers. And after several months of corresponding, Jack and I were married in La Mesa at Robert's Floral Chapel, October 11th, 1947.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
girl,
cool.
I love that story.
That's badass. Yeah. It's sweet and badass. I love it.
I know, right? So then, yeah, they had my uncle and then my dad and then my aunt. And, she was a remarkable woman. We didn't always see eye to eye about theology or politics, but I very much admired her devotion and her strength and her practice of gratitude. And she was a beautiful lady, and she was always done. You never saw her not with her hair did and her makeup and her nails and,
Well, I can say about my great Aunt Mildred, she was a redhead. So, yeah, there are some redheads in my family. And she, after the war, went on to teach. So I do know that about her. She taught kindergartners, which would try my patience to the ends of the earth. But she was good at it. And, so I know little bits and pieces. But yeah, it's sad when you lose the stories of these people. I'm glad that you have that.
Yeah,
grandmother. That's a gift. Yeah.
It is such a gift. It's a treasure.
It is a treasure. Yes.
I mean, it made me have all these questions of so you were in San Francisco after the war for a year and a half. What were you doing there? What was
having fun?
She was having a blast. Yes. I wanted to know more about DC, all these adventures and her girlfriends and the things. And I do have some photos of her from back in that day. And man, she was smoking. She had it going on.
Yeah, San Francisco, that was fun. That is a fun city. I've been there, and
for your job to be the welcome ship to go see the guys coming back from the war.
It's like a party
that's the
boat.
Best part of a war job. There aren't that many great fun, happy parts of war. So that's she
got the good side.
Man, yeah, I just have so many questions. I wish I could still ask her about all those times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really thrilled to get to share that part of her story with you guys today. It feels like she's here a little bit, and she's been really close with me this last few days, kind of working on this stuff, and it's great. So yeah, I have 3 short stories, and you have 2, and we're gonna kind of just go back and forth. These are all really cool, unique, fascinating stories, and we're gonna travel around to some different countries. It's the war, so there's some tragedy, of course, but there's also a lot to be inspired by. And I wanted to point out, for the most part, we are talking about very young women today.
Yes, teenagers. Yeah.
Teenagers, and I think none of the women I mentioned are more than their mid to late 20s at the very most. So,
yeah, mine are both teenagers. Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out before we get into it. I have some source material from YouTube, Wikipedia, the Wright Museum of World War II, a Vice article by Noor Spanger. I hope that's how they say their name. I'm sorry if it isn't. And then this great article by Bryn Holland on history.com. And I'm going to include that link in the show notes because it has some really groovy pictures that everyone should go take a gander at. To begin, we're traveling to Germany, where, of course, the whole shit show started.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Ms. Sophie Magdalena Scholl. Sophie was born on May 9th, 1921, and though she was only 22 years old when she died, her life made an impact, and because of her bravery and conscience, I wanted to share her story. Sophie was the daughter of Magdalena Mueller and a liberal politician and ardent Nazi critic named Robert Scholl, who was the mayor of her hometown of Forchtenberg am Koker. Forchtenberg am Koker. See, I'm having the German today and I can't.
Well, so Foxie and I talked about this, and it's really ironic. So I actually studied German, and it's ironic that she has all the German words, and she actually can pronounce the French words, and I have the French ladies. So just get ready for some really bad fucking pronunciations today. We're trying, guys. We're trying.
We don't mean to insult anybody. And reminder, it's a comedy podcast, so please feel free to laugh at us because that's why we're here. That's part of why we're here.
Exactly. Yes. Have a giggle.
So this was in the Free People's State of Württemberg, which I didn't run that down. I don't know if that's within Germany or I'm not sure. She was the fourth of 6 children, the youngest of whom died as a baby. She was brought up in the Lutheran church, entered grade school at the age of 7, learned easily, and had a pretty carefree childhood. In 1930, the family moved to Ludwigsburg and then 2 years later to Ulm. At the age of 12, like most girls her age, she chose to join the League of German Girls, but her initial enthusiasm gradually gave way to criticism. She was aware of the dissenting political views of her father and his friends and some of her teachers. Even her brother Hans, who once had eagerly participated in the Hitler Youth program, became entirely disillusioned with the Nazi Party. Political attitude had become an essential criterion in Sophie's choice of friends. The arrest of her brothers and friends in 1937 for participating in the German youth movement left a strong impression on her. And as an avid reader, she developed a growing interest in philosophy and theology. In the spring of 1940, she graduated from secondary school, where the subject of her leaving essay was, quote, "The hand that moved the cradle moved the world," which I think is really...
That's an awesome title.
Yeah, she was on to some
things.
She was a smart young lady.
Yeah.
She almost didn't graduate, having lost all desire to participate in the classes, which had largely become Nazi indoctrination. She was like, fuck this. I hate
God, can you imagine? Ugh.
Sadly, I can, but I don't want to.
Yeah, same.
So, because she was fond of children, she became a kindergarten teacher at the Froebel Institute in Ulm. She chose this job not only because she liked children, but she hoped it would be recognized as an alternate service in the National Labor Service, because you had to serve in the National Labor Service in order to go to university. And she really wanted to go to university. So she's like, okay, I'll become a kindergarten teacher for a while. The following year, in 1941, she began a 6-month stint in the auxiliary war service as a nursery school teacher in Bloomberg, because the National Socialists were like, no, that doesn't count. Sorry, fuck you, go serve us over here.
Oh, nice.
And the military-like regime of the labor service caused her to awaken to the political situation in Germany, which she and her family did not like, and began practicing passive resistance. But the good news was, after her 6 months in labor service, she finally got to enroll at the University of Munich as a student of biology and philosophy. And it was at this time she became close with her older brother, Hans, who was studying medicine there. They and their group of friends shared not only political views, but also a love of art, music, literature, philosophy, and theology, as well as hiking, skiing, and swimming. And they just sound like a lovely group of young people to me. So it was here in Munich that Sophie met artists and writers and philosophers, and she and her group of friends and her brother were constantly pondering the question of how is a person supposed to act under a dictatorship? And so during the summer vacation time of 1942, she had to do more war service in a metal plant. And at the same time, their father was in prison because he had made a critical remark about Hitler to one of his employees. And that little fucking bitch ratted on him. So
man, it was getting fucking scary and weird. And I've always said that would have been a really fucking scary time to be alive. Yeah.
For sure. So one day at university, Sophie discovers this leaflet by a group that are calling themselves the White Rose. And the leaflet questioned the principles and policies of the Nazi regime and called for National Socialism to be done away with. When she realized her brother Hans, along with some of his closest friends, were behind the leaflet, she herself began to work on the White Rose pamphlets as well. With 6 core members, 3 more White Rose pamphlets were created and distributed over the summer of 1942. The texts used both biblical and philosophical support for their argument for resistance. Sophie helped author, copy, distribute, and mail pamphlets while also managing the group's finances. The White Rose had created their 6th piece of resistance literature and were distributing it at the university on February 18, 1943. Sophie and Hans had brought a suitcase full of the leaflets and had put stacks of copies in the empty hallways for the students to find, intending to be gone by the time the lectures let out. As they were leaving, they noticed a few leaflets left in the suitcase, and Sophie, in what I imagine was this glorious moment of youthful abandon and bravery and excitement, flung them down from the top floor balcony into the atrium. This movie moment.
Yeah, I can see it.
Unfortunately, bad move, because this dirtbag snitch Nazi lover janitor saw this and immediately went and fucking tattled. So within what sounds like literally no time, I don't know if it was the same day, maybe within hours, within a couple of days, I'm not sure, Sophie and Hans and their friend were taken into Gestapo custody.
God almighty.
While Sophie had been smart enough to dispose of any incriminating evidence before they snatched her, Hans had in possession the 7th pamphlet, like the draft of the 7th pamphlet that was going to come out. And he tried to dispose of it by tearing apart and swallowing it, but it didn't work.
Oh, shit.
So in the court on the 21st of February, 43, this is 3 days after their arrest, Sophie was recorded in the court as saying, quote, "Somebody, after all, had to make a start. What we wrote and said is also believed by many others. They just don't dare express themselves as we did," end quote. The following day, Sophie, her brother Hans, and their friend and fellow White Rose rebel Christoph Probst were found guilty of treason and sentenced to death. All 3 were beheaded by guillotine in the Stadelhelm prison a few hours later. Sophie's final words were, quote, "Such a fine, sunny day, and I have to go. What does my death matter if, through us, thousands of people are awakened and stirred to action," end quote.
My God, I can't believe. Okay, first of all, guillotine? Really?
Yeah,
like
girl.
that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was expecting like a firing squad. I knew something bad was coming, obviously, because it's fucking Nazis. Yeah.
But you're right. I thought they probably would have shot them or hanged them maybe, but like fucking guillotine, dude.
That is what the... Oh, and her, that is so brave and sad, but brave. And I cannot believe that we did not get told this story in history class growing up. I'm so glad that you are talking about her.
Same. But there's a little bright side to the story. Like, obviously it's fucking tragic, and these 3 young kids were executed just because they were not Nazis. They were good people.
Yeah.
Trying to do the right thing. So after Sophie and friends' execution, a copy of the 6th leaflet, the one she had been caught distributing, was smuggled out of Germany through Scandinavia and to the UK by a German jurist from their trial named Helmut James Graf von Moltke, where it was used by Allied forces. Later that year, they dropped millions of copies of the propaganda tract over Germany with the title, "The Manifesto of the Students of Munich."
Oh, I just got good chills.
We do. Oh, and you can read the entire thing. I will post a link to that. And one more interesting side note before we get to the next story. Sophie's boyfriend Fritz survived the war and later married her sister Elizabeth Scholl in October of 1945. And Sophie's sister, Elizabeth Hartnagel Scholl, lived to be 100 years old and just passed away last February, 2020.
Oh, wow.
Right?
What a story.
What a story. So we celebrate you and your bravery and your sacrifice, young Ms. Sophie Magdalena Scholl and friends. These young people died doing the right thing, which shows a hell of a lot of moxie to me.
Oh, that's moxie at its finest. Well, are you ready to move on to our next Shiro? We're going to go to France. Like I said, the irony.
Oui.
Just so you know, friends, I did spend time trying to learn how to say these French words. I have studied German, and Greek and Hebrew and some Spanish, and I speak fluent sailor. But for some reason, French really trips me up. So please bear with me. I really am trying, and I really, really did Google this to try to not sound like a complete idiot, but you know, you get what you get. Okay, so my sources are coffeeordy.com, Wiki, numerous YouTube videos, and the New York Times. I want to start with an iconic photograph from World War II. This is a really good place to start should you choose to do your own research on this Shero. Just Google girl with a gun and it will pop right up. The photo is of a young woman wearing shorts, a checkered shirt, and a French beret. She's holding an MP-40 submachine gun, looking down the side of a building while two French resistance fighters flank her. Badass! And she has kind of this intense look on her face. And of course, that reflects the threat of German snipers that were all around the buildings, all around, well, you know, they were around her, they were around the two guys that were flanking her. And this photograph and the Shero in this picture would later become a very, very powerful symbol of the French resistance. The woman in the photograph is Simone Seguin. Simone was a French teenager who bravely fought on the front lines against the German occupiers and helped liberate the historic city of Chartres. I'm sorry. I hope I got that right. Okay, here's a hard part. So she's born in 1925 in a place that I literally could not find a pronunciation for. So I'm going to spell it. Tivars. It is 55 miles from Paris. Simone had 3 brothers who taught her how to fight. Yay, boys, you did something good. Simone was especially close to her father, a farmer who served France with distinction in World War I. So, like, it's sad. This family's life is consumed by what? War. Dad's in war. She's in war. Brother's in war. In 1940, the Germans marched into France and began their brutal occupation that would last 4 long years, and Simone wanted to honor her dad and find a way to fight back. Go girl. So before the war, she was just a teenager, an 18-year-old teenager with blonde hair, just an average teenager at the time. She went to school until she was 14, and then she worked on our family's farm before the Second World War hit. When the Germans invaded, she joined the French resistance and took the code name Nicole Minette. So I'm going to call her Simone Nicole throughout all of this to honor both names. Yeah. So Simone Nicole was provided with this false identity and with papers showing Nicole Minette to be from the Channel port of Dunkirk. And this was a really smart move because the port was bombed at the very beginning of the war. So there was no way to prove that she was not who she thought she was. So somebody was using their brain powers. All right. She joins the French resistance and she starts taking orders from a man named Roland Bouzier. Her initial task was to steal a German bicycle and repaint it to use as, and I put this in quotation marks, her reconnaissance vehicle. Because, you know, women can only drive bicycles, I roll. Okay, anyway, whatever. That didn't stop her. Simone Nicole, she carried messages as a courier to other members of the resistance, and Bouzier taught her how to handle a weapon, and she served as a liaison between 4 groups under Bouzier's command, using her bicycle, still using it, to travel the countryside. She's just like
Will Spy.
Yeah, she's just like being a spy on a bike, doing badass shit. All right, so Bouzier eventually brought Simone along to act as a lookout while other members of their group sabotaged one of the main railroads in Paris. By this time, she had earned their respect, which, okay, think about it. Imagine today trying to gain the respect of a bunch of dudes. It's not fucking easy. Imagine how hard it would have been back then.
Oh, shit, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, teenage girl, like they're really going to take her seriously. Well, they did. So good for them. I'll give them credit for that.
But mostly that speaks to how badass she was.
Yeah, she was a serious badass. So on the night of July 14th, 1944, our Shero, Simone Nicole, joined two other partisans in a ditch along a road frequenting, oh my God, I can't say that word.
It's weird, the shit that trips you up. You don't know until you get there.
Wow, I'm like worried about French and I can't even say my own language. Okay. So Germans like rode around on this fucking road a lot. There we go. And as they rode by, it's not funny, but it is. As they rode by where Simone Nicole and her fellow soldiers are, they drive by at like 5 o'clock in the morning and they ambush them, and it's successful. They kill them. They ambush them. Okay, so the quote I'm about to share about her is brutal, but I want to say something to our friends out there. Be careful about judging Simone Nicole. And I'll get to that in a minute. An author wrote a piece on her in the New York Times, and someone that knew this Shero was quoted as saying, "Nothing pleased Nicole so much as killing the Germans." So you might be thinking, okay, our Shero is brutal. And you know what? You're fucking right. She is. But here's the thing. Many of us want to claim that we're pacifists. I would like to be able to say that I am a pacifist. And I could say that all day long, but I don't really fucking know until the shit goes down. You know, if somebody, yeah, I mean, you don't know until you're in that person's shoes. If somebody kicked down my door right now, am I just going to be like, oh no, let's just talk our way through it? I don't know. Probably not. Okay.
Probably
I'm just
not.
letting you know. Yeah. If some fuckers invaded our country and are like killing people that I love and know and are imprisoning them, am I just going to sit back on my ass and be like, well, I can't do nothing about it? Probably not.
Definitely
Okay.
not. We're not those kind of gals.
We're not. So there is no judgment on my end. I am making that clear. You may do as you please, but there's no judgment on my end. I don't judge Simone Nicole for wanting to end the lives of the men that had invaded her country, were making their lives a living hell. What makes me angry is that war even exists. That's what makes me mad, okay?
Indeed.
Make no mistake, women fought too. They still do to this day. But war was, it always has been, a tool of the big P. So fuck patriarchy. You want to be mad at something? Be mad at patriarchy. Hate the big P, not our Shero. Okay, so back to our Shero. I just went on my little rant.
Old.
Which I do from time to time, all the time. Simone Nicole underwent intensive military training to be a combat soldier. She carried out multiple acts of sabotage against German targets, helping to blow up bridges and supply lines. She helped to liberate the historic city of Chartres. I think I'm saying that right. I don't know. I'm sorry. In August of 1944. And afterwards, General Charles de Gaulle, the Free French leader and future president, visited the city. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, de Gaulle. It's the big Paris airport is named after him.
See, I don't even know that. I'm just a dumb American.
I'm just trying to help out when I can.
I'll take it. So he visits the city, gives a speech at the time, and journalists who were covering this event were fascinated by our Shero. She's this sweet-looking girl. She's sitting there eating a baguette with jam on it, carrying her machine gun. I mean, picture that.
That's awesome.
And they're like, what's up with that over there? You know?
What is going on?
Yeah, so actually they go and ask her, like, what's up? What is happening with this? And she proudly told the reporters that she was part of de Gaulle's security detail. And she was interviewed by an American reporter for Life magazine and photographed, and this is the famous photo, by famed war photographer Robert Capa. So after the city's liberated, Simone joined France's 2nd Armored Division, heading to Paris, where a really, really brutal battle took place. The 2nd Armored Division helped defeat the Germans and bring freedom to Paris. Okay, that is badass.
Yeah, it is.
Simone Nicole was asked after the war if she'd killed Germans. And this is how she answered. On July 14th, 1944, I took part in an ambush with 2 comrades. 2 German soldiers went by on a bike, and one of the 3 of us fired at the same time. So I don't know exactly who killed them. You shouldn't have to kill someone like that. It's true, the Germans were our enemies. It was the war, but I don't draw any pride from it. So again, friends, this young woman understood that the war was a shit show that never should have happened in the first place, which makes her, in my book, an even bigger Shero. After the war, okay, well, she's promoted to lieutenant, so that's pretty badass, right?
Yeah, it is.
And after the war, I'm going to try to say this in French, and then I'm going to have to go to the English. She's given the prestigious Croix de Guerre.
Yeah, the Cross of War.
Cross of War, yes. That part I can say.
No, you nailed it. You nailed it. You totally.
I tried so hard. A military decoration of France. And guys, Google it. Cross of War. Just Google that. Okay.
Yeah, Josephine Baker got one. You can go listen to her in our first season, and she got a Croix de Guerre. Croix de Guerre. Yeah, there we go.
You sound more like it. All right. So I'm thinking about how like she did all of these things and like awards that I won when I was a teenager. And I'm thinking like, when I was 12, I got most improved in PE. And when I was 18, I was having a lot of fun with my sister Foxie and partying my ass off, not like fighting battles and winning.
Killing Nazis.
Yeah.
Winning war awards.
Winning wars. So she goes on and she becomes a pediatric nurse after the war, and she raises 6 children. Wow. Serious badassery. Yeah. She's still alive. She's 96.
Awesome.
And she lives in Curvy-sur-Ure. That's the best I can do, y'all. Sorry. And there's a street that was recently named there after her. Nice. And for fighting Nazis and helping to liberate France, we honor Simone Sigouin. She was and still is a Shero, that badass girl with a gun, a nurse who cared for babies and children and raised her own. In 2020, the village hall in our Shero's hometown was named for Sigouin. So major applause for this French badass and Shero.
Oui. And I love that we at least have one Shero who's still with us today.
Oh, we have 2.
Oh, great. Because I don't think I have any in my collection, but we're about to talk about some serious fucking badasses here. And this is exciting. We are going to travel to the Soviet Union, and this is a whole huge band of badass Sheros. And they're led by a remarkable Super Shero.
I've already got chills again. I'm sorry. Good chills. Yes.
The Night Witches. Okay. These brave women flew under the cover of darkness in bare-bones plywood biplanes. They braved bullets and frostbite in the air while battling skepticism and sexual harassment on the ground. They were feared and hated so much by the Nazis that any German airman who downed one of the Night Witches was automatically awarded the Iron Cross Medal. The pioneering all-female 588th Night Bomber Regiment dropped more than 23,000 tons of bombs on Nazi targets, and in doing so, they became a crucial Soviet asset in winning World War II. The Nazis named them the Nachthexen, or Night Witches, because of the whooshing noise their wooden planes made that resembled that of a sweeping broom. Stephen Prowse, the author of the screenplay The Night Witches, which is a nonfiction account of the all-female squadron, said, quote, "This was the only warning the Germans had. The planes were too small to show up on radar or in infrared locators. They never used radios, so radio locators couldn't pick them up either. They were basically ghosts."
That is cool. Okay.
So while women had previously been barred from combat, the pressure of an encroaching enemy gave Soviet leaders a reason to rethink their policy. Hitler had launched his massive invasion of the Soviet Union in June of 1941, and by the fall, the Nazis were pressing in on Moscow. Leningrad was under siege, and the Red Army was struggling. So the Soviets were desperate. So what do? They turned to a woman to get the job done. That's right.
Hell yes.
The badass squadron of Sheros was the brainchild of Major, who later became Colonel, Marina Raskova. And I think that's how you say her name. Raskova Maybe that's the accent.
Well, that sounds good. I like that. Yeah.
Marina Raskova. She was known as the Soviet Amelia Earhart, famous not only as the first female navigator in the Soviet Air Force, but also for her many long-distance flight records. She had been receiving letters from women all across the Soviet Union wanting to join the war effort. And while they had been allowed to participate in support roles, there were many who wanted to be gunners and pilots and flying. And a lot of them had lost brothers or sweethearts or seen their homes and villages devastated. So seeing this opportunity, Marina petitioned Stalin to let her form an all-female fighting squadron. And on October 11th, 1941, Stalin gave orders to deploy 3 all-women Air Force units. These women would not only fly missions and drop bombs, they would return fire, making the Soviet Union the first nation in the world to officially allow women to engage in combat.
That is badass. I did not know that.
Me neither.
All right.
Marina Raskova quickly started to fill out her teams. From more than 2,000 applications, she selected around 400 women each for the 3 units, so 1,200 women in total. Most of these women were students, ranging in age from 17 to 26. Those selected moved to a town called Ingels, a small place north of Stalingrad, to begin training at the Ingels School of Aviation. They underwent a highly compressed education, expected to learn in a few months what it took most soldiers, male soldiers, several years to grasp.
Sorry.
No, it's true.
That deserves the cackle. Yep.
Oh yeah, it takes you 3 years. We'll do it in 3 months. Fuck you.
Yep.
Each recruit had to train and perform not only as pilots and navigators, but also as maintenance and ground crew. So they were literally doing everything.
Damn.
Of course, they had to make do with hand-me-downs and relics because guess what? The military did not give them the best shit. I mean, are you shocked?
Kind of like a bicycle, right? Yeah. No, I'm not shocked. Fuck that. Yeah.
So they got
Same
hand-me-down, hand-me-down uniforms from male soldiers, including oversized boots, which they have to stuff with rags to make them fit. And their equipment was pretty shitty too. The Army gave them outdated biplanes, which were actually 1920s model crop dusters that had been used as training vehicles. They were light, 2-seater, open cockpit planes, never meant for combat, by the way. They were made out of plywood with canvas pulled over it, so they offered virtually no protection from the elements. So flying at night, these pilots endured freezing temperatures, wind, frostbite, rain, whatever. In the harsh Soviet winters, the planes became so cold just touching them would rip off bare skin.
Oh my God almighty. Holy shit. I mean, this is serious badassery though.
It's
fuck
Super
those,
Shero level. Like,
fuck the big P yet again, like always on that. But this is absolutely legendary kind of like just.
It is. I mean, the fact that we don't all know who the fucking night witches were is
criminal.
It's criminal.
It is criminal. I agree.
Due to both the plane's limited weight capacity and the military's limited funds, the women pilots also lacked other, quote, luxury items that their male counterparts enjoyed. Instead of parachutes, which were too heavy to carry, radars, guns, and radios, they were forced to use more rudimentary tools such as rulers, stopwatches, flashlights, pencils, maps, and compasses.
Okay, that makes me want to stab someone with a pencil right now. Okay. And then just
to reiterate, these women were so much better than the men that they went through triple speed training and used archaic navigational tools to fly with. They were fucking badass.
Hey, world, need any more proof?
So there was a little bit of upside to these shitty ass planes though, because their maximum speed was slower than the stall speed of the Nazi planes. So like the Nazis literally could not slow down enough to catch them without falling out of the sky.
I love it. Yeah.
And that meant in their little shitty wooden planes, they could maneuver faster and they were very hard to target. They also could take off and land easily from most locations. However, another downside, we already talked about some of them, when they started coming under enemy fire, they would have to duck by sending their plane into a dive because almost none of them had ammunition.
Oh, God.
And if they happened to be hit by tracer bullets, which have a pyrotechnic charge, their wooden planes would burst into flames.
That's terrible. Ooh.
I know. But because they're fucking brilliant and crafty, they use stealth tactics, hence the name Night Witches. The biplanes could only carry 2 bombs at a time, one under each wing. And so in order to make meaningful dents in the Nazi front lines, the regiment sent up to 40 two-person crews per night. And each of these 40 crews would execute between 8 to 18 missions per night, flying back every time to rearm with the bombs.
My
The weight of the bombs forced them to fly at lower altitudes, which made them an easier target from the ground, which is why they only flew at night. Plus,
okay.
because they were fucking super smart, they traveled in packs. And so the first planes would go in as bait, and the Germans would turn on their spotlights, which meant then the planes behind them could see the targets, and those front planes would shoot up flares to make it even brighter. So then the planes in the back would idle its engines, glide in the darkness and silence to the bombing area, and boom, drop their fucking bombs.
That is the power of women working together, because that's what we do.
That's right. And so that was the whooshing sound like a broom, was when they were going in silent, like idling and just whooshing in to fucking drop bombs. I love it. Oh my God, where is this movie? I need this movie.
I don't know. Maybe we will write this movie.
We might need to. Somebody out there, let us know if you're working on it. I'm here for it. I will come and see it immediately. Sometimes the night witches would return with planes riddled with bullets. Nadezhda Popova, one of the most famous night witches, once returned from a bombing run with 42 bullet holes in her plane, as well as in her map and her helmet. Her helmet.
I keep saying, my God, I'm like stuck on that. I always get stuck on some word every time we do a cast. So I think last time was absolutely. Now it's just like, my God, my God, my God.
This is a very, my God. It's very hard as soft little zennial late Gen Xers to imagine ourselves in a fucking war zone. I mean, and we're Americans, we're very privileged in so many ways that we have never had to be in an active war zone. But I can only imagine that when you're living in that much fucking terror and disturbance of your whole life, like what else, your whole life that you had is now ruined. So what else is there to do?
You're going to fight.
You either get with the fascist program, no thank you, or you fight. And so while it is actually hard, to imagine myself, I kind of see where if you're put in that situation, that's absolutely what you're going to do. It's absolutely what I would do. Of course, I would get in I don't know about a plane, but I would do something.
Yeah, I don't know about the plane either, but
maybe take a bicycle with a gun.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
So some of these other remarkable night witch sheroes. Irina Sabrova flew over 1,008 missions in the war, more than any other member of the regiment. One of the pilots lost the bottom of her plane to enemy fire, but kept on flying and made it.
Holy shit.
The night witches damaged or destroyed 17 river crossings, 9 railways, 2 railway stations, 26 warehouses, 12 fuel depots, 176 armored cars, 86 prepared firing positions, and 11 searchlights. Plus, they also made 155 supply drops of food and ammunition to Soviet forces.
Man, they were fucking shit up left and right and all around. Woo.
Absolutely. They were winning the war for the Soviet Union. Like they were doing it.
That is awesome.
There were 12 commandments the night witches followed. The first was, quote, "Be proud you are a woman." And y'all, I went down some rabbit holes, but I could not find the other 11 commandments, but I'm dying to know what they were. So if anybody's got some inside info on that, please tell us. Killing Nazis was their job, but in their downtime, the heroic flyers still did needlework, patchwork, decorated their planes, danced. I imagine they also drank a lot of vodka and partied and had a great fucking time hanging out, being badasses, and not having to deal with their stupid male counterparts.
Yeah, with their fucking pencils and rulers, drinking vodka, kicking ass, and not having to deal with those idiots.
So their last flight took place on May 4th, 1945. And the night witches flew within about 37 miles of Berlin. They were that close.
That's very close.
3 days later, the Germans surrendered. Allegedly, I'm not saying it was exactly because of that, but maybe it was.
We don't know.
We don't know. There were a lot of factors. It's complex. Allegedly, because the Nazis were the fucking worst, and of course they could not conceptualize how amazing women truly are. They had 2 theories about why the night witches were so successful. Either they were criminals who were masters at stealing and had been sent to the front lines as punishment, I'm like, dude, that doesn't even make sense.
I'm sorry, that's so dumb.
They're not thieving anything on the front lines. They're fucking flying planes, you dipshits. Like, okay.
They're literally killing you. They're not taking any of your shit, you dumbasses. And like,
No.
How would thievery train you to like
fly a biplane with bombs on it? It wouldn't. It wouldn't. Their other theory was that they had been given special injections that allowed them to see at night.
Oh my God. It's like that sounds like something QAnon people would say today. Oh my God, that's so stupid.
Absolutely. I know. Okay.
That's hilarious. That's at least there's some laughs in all of this.
I know, right?
Honestly, it's fucking brutal, but yeah. That's funny, yeah. Because it couldn't just be that they were just badass Sheros, right?
No, they obviously had superpowers.
They were thieving injected, witches.
So altogether, these daredevil Sheros flew more than 30,000 missions in total, about 800 per pilot and navigator team. 30 of those night witches gave their lives in combat. 24 of the flyers were awarded the title of Hero of the Soviet Union. And why 24? Because it should have been fucking 1,200 for however many of them there were. They should have all been given that.
That's bullshit.
Colonel Marina Roskova, the mother of the movement, the mother of the regiment, died on January 4th, 1943, sadly, when she was finally sent to the front line and her plane crashed while trying to attempt a forced landing. But she was given the very first state funeral of World War II in the Soviet Union, and her ashes were buried in the Kremlin. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Now for the part that's going to piss you off just at the end here. Sorry. Despite being the most highly decorated unit in the Soviet Air Force during the war, the Night Witches Regiment was disbanded 6 months after the end of World War II. And when it came to the big Victory Day parade in Moscow, they were not included. Why? We all know why. Fuck the big P. And cheers to the Night Witches for helping to defeat the fucking fascist Nazis. We celebrate you here at Sheros and Zeros because you were all Sheros to us and you all had fucking boatloads of moxie. And I don't know what else to say. I need to see this movie. These women should be known by everyone. It's an incredible fucking story. And here you go. Please share with others. Even if you don't share this podcast, at least share the story.
I'm like angry and also like really just overwhelmed at how amazing that is, but also still like really fucking angry. Yeah. Fuck the big P. That is such ooh, I don't have words. Like my head is going to just like spin around and keep spinning and fly off into the sky because it's so angry in there right now.
There's tons of shit in that story to piss you off, but at the balance, I think like the enormity of the amazingness of those women kind of just, that's what shines through more than anything.
It is, and you know what? If nobody else writes that movie before our lives on this, in this 3D world are done, we'll write it. Fuck it.
We need to write it. That's like a Ron Howard, you know what I'm saying? I don't mean to uplift a white guy, but Ron Howard, we love him and he makes great movies. But it's that, like, it needs that level of care and treatment and budget and
excellent cinematography. Yeah, all of those
production,
things.
all of the realness. Yes, I mean, I want to see it so bad. And it just like the idea of getting in a shitty ass little fucking wooden canvas crop duster plane.
With your boots that don't fucking fit.
With your ill-fitting boots, your oversized overalls, your fucking helmet that you probably had to like duct tape to get it to stay on.
Oh God!
Freezing fucking Soviet tundra, and you're gonna get in that plane and you're gonna go fly these two bombs. That's all you got. You don't have guns. You don't have shit. You don't even have and then you're gonna go back and get more bombs and do it.
What are you gonna do tonight? What are you gonna do with a fucking ruler? P.S.
It's about navigating. Like they have to literally. I mean, it's like old.
Oh, okay. Well, I was thinking
that to having like radio navigation and communication with the flight tower. I don't know. Whatever.
I hadn't even thought about that, but that makes me so angry. Like just take off all but like a couple little notches of that ruler, and that sizes up the fucking men in Russia. There you go. Of the time.
Yeah, those women saved their asses, and then they didn't even bother to say thank you. So, yay for the Night Witches. So, yes, Roxy, you have another amazing Shero for us. I'm super excited about this one.
I do. Okay, so the sources for this next Shiro are the Daily Princetonian, the Tennessean, and multiple videos on YouTube. Our next Shiro is Jewish, and she was born on April 23rd in the French province of Lorraine. I'm trying to say it like I heard it, near the border between France and Germany. Her name is Marthe Cohn. English speakers say Marta, but she says Mart. So I'm going to honor her. As a child, in this part of the world, it was occupied by the Nazis and its people were forbidden to speak French. So Mart was raised to be fluent in German. And she went on to become a French Jewish Nazi spy.
Yes.
I know. I
love a good spy story.
I know. So before becoming a spy, Mart used her German fluency, along with her blonde hair and blue eyes, because Nazis lived for that shit.
Right.
She used those to resist the Nazi regime, along with a farmer. It was like her family, and then a farmer named Noel, and especially her older sister, Stephanie. They all helped Jews escape to France that at that moment in time, parts of it weren't totally overrun with fucking Nazis. On one very bad day, Mart's sister Stephanie made the mistake of sending a letter that contained her Jewish maiden name, and that letter was discovered by a division of the Nazi secret police. So on June 17th, 1942, the Nazis break into the Cohn's home. They arrest Stephanie. They take her to their offices and interrogate her. And she refuses to cooperate in any fucking way because she knows that if she does, it's going to put her family and the lives of other resistors on the line. So she's being selfless. She's being very fucking brave. 2 hours later, the Nazi police return to the house and arrest her father in order to put further pressure on Stephanie to give up information. And you can only imagine what those interrogations were like.
Oh my God. No
and
joke.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah. So Mart's sister Stephanie refused, still, even with her father there. So her dad's released. Her sister remains in prison for a month, and then she's transferred to a concentration camp.
Oh God.
I know. This is a really sad thing. Okay, so Mart's family had some connections, and they actually arranged for Stephanie to escape the concentration camp. They managed to actually get a letter to her in the concentration camp. Think about that. Yeah.
Oh shit.
That's some brave shit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's some moxie.
Right.
But check this out. Mart's sister refused to leave because she was the only person able to provide medical care to the other prisoners, especially the children.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. These are the words, and this is Mart describing the situation. She said, she's talking to her sister. I reminded her that her mother needed her as much as the children. And she answered me, don't you realize that if I escape, you are all going to be arrested? So she stays. She eventually dies. She's murdered at Auschwitz.
Ugh.
So really we have two tremendous Jewish Shiros in this story. Mm-hmm. She gave her life for her family, for her people, for those resisting.
Wow.
Mart goes on to fight the good fight. So with the help of a good man, he helps the family escape to France, and he gives them new papers, new identities. And Mart goes on to train as a nurse. She wanted to join the French resistance, but the men didn't take her seriously. Go fucking figure. So she does her nurse thing. Eventually, she falls in love with the French soldier, and they're engaged, and he's killed by the Nazis. And Mart was more determined than ever to do her part and to fight the fucking fight. So she takes supplies to French soldiers in the trenches, and finally a lieutenant is paying attention to this young woman that's like bringing them things just because she wanted to. Nobody told her to. And he's thinking like, oh, hey, this woman's a badass. We could actually use her help. Duh. Right. And so he gets, I know. Finally, somebody takes notes. I know. Oh, a woman can do something. So he gets her started by having her interrogate the Nazi prisoners. And she said she didn't have to do any like fighting or anything. I'm sure there was probably somebody else in the room doing that part.
Well,
but because she's speaking fluent German, so she's like interrogating these guys. And then after that, she moves on to espionage. And this woman saved, and I mean this, our asses, not just France. She saved our asses. She helped the Allied forces in a huge, huge way. The Allies at this point are pushing into Germany, and Mart is ordered to enter into enemy territories to get information. And she spied on the Nazis at Siegfried Line, which is a defensive line that was built alongside the German border opposite France's, I'm going to try this, Maginot Line.
That sounds good.
I don't know. I'm trying. Okay. So for her mission, Mart had to create her own cover story. They don't even like tell her. It's just like, okay, make it up as you go. So she does, which is probably better that she made it up than some dumbass man.
For sure.
Anyway, so she decides, she makes up her cover story. She's like, I'm going to be a German nurse searching for my fiance, which is like really actually what she was. But her fiance is dead. But I mean, like, you know.
Yeah.
She is
keep the lie close to reality. It makes it more believable, right?
She's very smart. So on her way to the Siegfried Line, Mart joins a group of Nazis headed in the same direction. And because she's blonde-haired, blue-eyed, she's fluent in German, they buy her story. But imagine having to hang out with these fuckers. Seriously. Can you imagine? These are the motherfuckers that killed, your sister and I can't even imagine this. Okay, so one SS officer had been wounded while fighting in Russia, and he was assigned to the Siegfried Line as a non-commissioned officer. And while they're walking together, he faints. Mart she is a nurse, so she takes care of him. She gains his trust. And when he regains consciousness, he's so grateful. This is kind of funny. He invites her to visit him at the Siegfried Line, and he gives her his phone number.
What? Does he have a phone at the Siegfried Line? Like, how's she gonna call his ass? Like, hello, Nazi outpost. I'm calling for.
That's the story. Like, he gives her his phone number, like the way to get a hold of him.
Wow.
Like, by the way, here's my digits.
Here's my digits. If you can find a phone in war-torn France at the moment, just go ahead and ring a dingy.
But I mean, like,
that is fucking hilarious.
They think women are like too dumb to do anything. When really it's the guys like giving up. Oh, by the way, this is our fucking mission, and here's my phone number. Okay. Like all the irony. I love it. Okay, so 3 weeks later, when our Shero learned on the German radio that Allies were going to invade Freiburg, Mart used her trust from this guy to get intel on what was happening. And when they all reached the Siegfried Line, there were hardly any Nazis there. There was hardly anybody there. So I'll use Mart's words. She said, I discovered that it had been completely evacuated. I also knew right away that if our Allied armies had not to fight against the Siegfried Line, they could much faster occupy the rest of Germany and terminate the war. She hurried back to tell her French commanders the news, what was going on, because, dummy tells her everything. And she sees for herself, but because women are just, oh my God, we can't really know anything. She gets to Freiburg. Well, all right, let me backtrack. First, as she's on her way to tell her commanders, she is literally stopped by a tank. The Allied invasion had already begun. And so so being blonde-haired and blue-eyed and speaking fluent German really worked on that side. But she's thinking, holy shit, now I'm in real danger because I'm going to have to make these people understand that I'm really on the other side.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, you're standing there and a tank rolls up? I can't even fucking... I know, right?
No, it's terrifying.
I know. I'm going to use her words again. And friends, go on YouTube and listen to her in her own voice. And I'll get to more of that in a moment. She said, how was I going to explain to the people in the tank that I was a friend and not an enemy? I had no document, nothing to prove who I was. So I went in the middle of the street and I raised my right hand as high as I could. And I made the V, the victory sign of Winston Churchill. Clever lady.
Smart. Yeah.
So the tank stops and Mark gets on and she's like, take me to French headquarters right now, basically. And
yes,
and they do. They take her and she goes to the commander and tries to explain to him that the Siegfried line, like there's no Nazis there. And he doesn't believe her because, you know, women can't know stuff. He thought, and he's like, no, the Germans are setting a trap. So he has to go send male asshats. He sends a patrol to verify what she had seen with her own eyes. Duh. Obviously, it's true. So the Allied army prepared to continue their offensive into Germany. Mart went ahead of them and encountered a Nazi colonel. She told him, like she's constantly having to come up with things. She told him that she had fled from Freiburg when the French invaded, and she like feigned distress. You know, like, oh, help me.
Oh no.
I'm just a dumb lady, and I'm
just a dumb, helpless woman, and
I can't do anything. These are Mart's words. The colonel told me, don't be so afraid. The war's not ended. Then, oh, this is so funny. Then he told me exactly where the remnant of the German army was hidden in an ambush in the Black Forest. So another one tells her
another dumbass Nazi dickhead just spilling all the fucking tea because he's trying to get some nookie.
Exactly. He's like, oh, here, by the way, here's all our secrets, and here's our fucking war plan.
Would you like to see a map? And here, I have some photographs and drawings, and here's my phone number.
Oh, God. Men think we're so weak and dumb, and the joke's on them, right?
I mean, for real.
Always. So Mart immediately relayed the information to the French army. And because of her, the French army avoided the ambush, gained a tactical advantage that contributed to their victory against the Germans. I mean, oh my God, she's amazing. She was awarded France's highest military honor, including the Cross of War, which I'm not going to try to say in French again, and the medal, military medal. I don't know why my voice went into a different octave when I tried to say that. That is so stupid. Okay, so sorry, guys. This award was also given to Winston Churchill, just so we know how big of an award this is. And if go on YouTube, seriously, she has tons of fucking medals, lots of them. She's a serious badass. Mart helped save many lives. She and her sister Stephanie, God rest her soul, may she rest in power. They are both super sheroes like the knight, which is like everyone else we've talked about.
Yes.
Mart is in her 90s now. She is still alive like the other super shero. Yeah. There is so much more to her story than I have time for. I suggest that you go to, and we probably need to put this link up, Behind Enemy Lines, Holocaust Survivor Mart Kohn. And it's so funny, like I watched some of it, and she takes a couple of jabs at Trump in the video. Yeah, God love her. Oh, it's awesome. And it's wonderful to hear her talk in her own voice.
Yeah.
Her bravery made all the difference. And that just shows that women, we can make a difference. Every person can make a difference. We do make a difference, whether it's for good or for bad. So go be a shero like fucking Mart and Stephanie. Go kick some zero Nazi bigoted asses. Go do that.
Ma'am, I love it.
Yeah.
What a badass story. Great job. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of our special celebration Shero buffet of amazing Wonder Women of World War II. And I've saved my favorite of my three for the last one. And this is the story of three Danish girls of the resistance. This is about university student Hanne Schaft and two sisters, Truus and Freddie Oversteegen. And Truus's name is spelled Truus. These are Dutch names. So I listened and I think it's pronounced Truus. So that's kind of what I'm going to go with. So when the Nazis invaded and occupied the Netherlands on March 10th of 1940, Hanny was 19, Truus was 16, and little Freddie was only 14.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
There I am with my oh my God again. I'm sorry.
It's a very oh my God day on the show, girl.
Oh my God.
I imagine a lot of our friends out there are going to be going, oh my God, too. So it's appropriate. So Freddie and Truus had been raised by a single mother who had strong anti-fascist convictions. So when a member of the Danish resistance came to ask if the girls could join, their mother said, fuck yeah, go, do it.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. So other bonus Shero is Mrs. Mama of the girls. Hanny Shaft had dropped out of school after refusing to pledge loyalty to Germany. And the three girls started with small tasks for the resistance, but soon their involvement grew and the girls learned to target Dutch traitors, which they called land watchers, rather than going after Nazis, which if you think about it, is really smart because you're going after the enemy people of your own culture. So you know more about them, you know their ways better, you know.
That is smart. Yeah.
Yeah. When Freddie Oversteegen was 15 or 16, she executed a woman who was going to hand the names of all the Jewish people of Harlem to the Nazis. She approached the Zero in the park, confirmed her identity, shot her, and rode off on her bicycle.
A lot of bicycles.
Yeah, there's a lot of bicycles, especially for the ladies that were having to do amazing wartime Shero acts. A lot of it was done by bicycle, we're learning. It's pretty good, kind of cool.
Walking, bicycles, and shitty planes.
Yep. And, you know, because these girls were young and, quote, innocent looking, they got away with a lot. And they would seduce Nazi soldiers and Dutch traitors and invite them to go for a walk in the woods and take them out there and shoot them.
I'm sorry. But
I just think it's a great
I'm not sorry, actually.
I'm not sorry.
I don't know why I say I'm sorry. I'm not fucking sorry.
It's the fundamental using of the big P to fight the big P. Like
it
in the
is
most direct fucking way maybe I've ever seen. So
no, that is just glorious.
Gold, yeah. So in a 2016 interview, this is what Freddie said about they're executing a big shot Nazi higher up dirtbag in the woods using this technique. She says, quote, I didn't shoot him. One of the men did. I had to keep an eye on my sister and keep a lookout from a vantage point in the woods to see if someone was coming. Truus had met him in an expensive bar, seduced him, and then took him for a walk in the woods. She was like, want to go for a stroll? And of course he wanted to. Then they ran into someone, which was made to seem like a coincidence, but he was, of course, one of ours. And that friend said to Truus, girl, you know you're not supposed to be here. So they apologized, turned around and walked away, and then shots were fired. So that man never knew what hit him.
Truus hit him. That's what fucking hit him.
Truus
yes.
and Freddie and their cohort.
That is badass.
Isn't it? I just
joyful.
I know. So not to bring it down too much, we have a little sad bit and then we have some good news at the end. Hanny Shaft had red hair, speaking of redheads.
Yeah.
Which made her unfortunately more recognizable. So she was caught by the Nazis and executed on April 17th, 1945 at 24 years old.
Oh, man.
18 days after her death, with roughly 3/4 of all Dutch Jews murdered by the Nazis, the Netherlands was liberated. Every year, a memorial marks Hanny's courage and sacrifice. And I just want to highlight that.
I'm glad that they do. Yeah.
Yeah, at least the Dutch kind of
have their shit together a little bit. They're like, oh yeah, this woman did something. Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's horrible, but it's wonderful.
I know. Yeah.
It's such a mixed bag. Yeah. Oh my God.
That's the thing. It's a very Shero and Zero everything because we have these amazing Sheros, but the whole fucking situation and the enemy are such huge Zeros, and it's
like yuck, and then you're like, but yay, but then you're like, bleh. And then you're like, but
you hadn't had to be that badass because I wish you hadn't had your fucking village blown up and your sweetheart killed and your parents jailed. And,
if you didn't need to fucking take over the world and control the world because your penis is fucking in charge of everything and you can't fucking use your brain.
And you got no kind of So, but on a higher note, to leave this story, Truus's children described the Oversteegen sisters as, quote, unbreakable. Truus became an artist, focusing her work on the hope that the world can be a better place. Her book, published in 1998 under her married name Truus Menger, is called Not Then, Not Now, Not Ever, which is
wow.
She died in 2016 at the age of 92, and her badass little sister Freddie passed away in 2018, just one day shy of her 93rd birthday. So both the Oversteegen sisters lived to be very old ladies. Very cool. So we salute you, Hanny, Truce, and Freddie, and your incredible moxie and bravery and badassery. What a story. What a world.
The moxie is just off the charts today, and
the moxie is overflowing with these ladies. Like
it is. And you know, these are just a few stories of so many others that should be told and need to be told. So
exactly.
Find your moxie friends and start telling these stories with us, because
absolutely,
you know, we should have learned about this in history classes.
We should have.
I didn't know any of these women.
I didn't know any of these names.
No.
The only woman of note of the World War II era I ever learned about was Anne Frank. I think that's the only one that like pops right to memory, you know, and she was obviously a very important woman and a martyr of the war and did something amazing. But there were so many stories.
There are millions of women
all over different countries, all in different ways, all, you know, using their strength and their wiles and their stealthiness and their craft and fucking getting it done. In fact, this has actually made me want to do a lot more World War II history, because it kind of seems to me like the women won the war for us, is what happened.
Well, okay, so they kind of did win the war, because not only are they out there doing badass like espionage and fighting and whatever they're being asked to do, they're also holding down the fort, and fucking some of them are like raising babies. Like, think about they're working the factories here and doing in this country. They were doing it all, you know, like moxie off the charts. I mean, we could just do this forever and we would never be able to cover all
we could have a whole podcast that was just only about this topic. And honestly, friends, if any of you have stories from your own family or circle that you would like to have us read or share with others, I would love it. We would both love it if you would send us those. So please feel free to email us at roxieandfoxie@gmail.com. That's ROXIEANDFOXIE. We're also on Instagram at Sheros Zeros. We have a Facebook page for the show for Sheros and Zeros. And then we now, new and improved, also have Sheros and Zeros pod chat group. So you can come join the group, and there's a lot of cool, groovy people in there already. And we're going to be talking about all these great Sheros and all this great stuff and sharing things. So please come join us out there in the social media world. We are so excited to interact with you and build a little community around our little baby Moxie podcast. Yeah,
exactly. Join the Moxie magic.
Yeah, we have our next show coming up, gang, is going to be devoted. We have 2 shows coming up in June that are going to be devoted to LGBTQIA Sheros with some interesting offset zeros, which we haven't 100% solidified yet. So, but be looking for those soon. The first of those will come out in a couple of weeks, and I'm very, very excited about both of our Shero selections for those 2 shows. So
I am too. Yeah, that's gonna be another good one. I mean, women are
amazing. I'm never gonna get tired of this job. I love it, and I really hope that someday it can be our capital J job.
Totally with you on that. Yes.
We're working on it. But thank you so much, friends, for joining us again today. We hope you enjoyed these incredible World War II Sheros. And we'll be back to hang out with you again soon. We love you.
Moxie Sisters out.
And we're the Moxie Sisters.
I have crazy eyes. And we're the Moxie Sisters. Let's get this party started.
Where's my fucking page?
Well, I like to put things all over the place so I can't find them and be a complete fucking shit show. That's
More
my
fun
life.
that way. It's more exciting. So say that 10 times fast.
No.
Super special
Super
Shiro celebration. I
I
wrote this shit. Who am I? Okay. But anyway,
the Swedish chef. Okay.
I like to make things easy for myself.
Oh, me too. Oh.
Notoriously. So excited.
They are mamas.
Right? Will you be my adopted grandmother, please? Or mother or sister or anything.
She can be my, yeah, whatever. I'll take anything.
Right? Fairy godmother.
Step niece, even. I don't care.
Stephanie. Yes.
Whatever you give me, I'll take it. It's just a dusty butthole.
It's Dust Bowl. Yeah. I mean,
Sorry, it is.
no, my cousins grew up in Odessa.
I'm sorry, people in West Texas.
Yeah.
They're like,
apologies
fuck
with-
you.
They're
Fuck
like,
you.
we know. We live here. My
Listen,
cousin-
I live in a dusty butthole if it makes you feel any better. Oh my God. Yeah, that's
They put her
awesome.
on that duty because she was pretty. They were like, put all the pretty girls on the welcome home boat.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not
you
saying she
know,
just, that was the only reason. She was obviously, capable.
frequented. She lives in, and I'm gonna try to say this, Curvisur. Oh my God, that's so. Oh, I can't believe it. That just came out of my mouth. I sound like an idiot, and I know it. Oh my God, just look her up,
Oh,
please.
Try again.
Simone Nicole went on to become. God, I can't stop. So stupid. I feel like the Swedish fucking chef. Oh, I'm French and I'm horrible. Okay. Sorry, guys, I'm getting excited and I'm talking too fast and I need to take a breath. Okay. To our men who are allies, I apologize maybe a little bit, but
Listen, I feel like if
I
our
don't
brother,
know.
if we have some brothers out there listening to the Moxie Sisters, they're probably pretty cool brothers. So like, welcome, behave yourselves. That's right. Ooh, yeah. We need a t-shirt that says that. Okay, girl. That was fucking great.
It was good. It was
Glad
fun.
we both had a lot of energy at the top, and I'm kind of tired. It was funny, like before we got on, I was like, what is this feeling? Oh, I know this feeling. This is like when I would go to do a show, like go perform, and like that nervous jitter, like, oh, I'm excited and I'm kind of geeky and I can't get my fucking focus together. And
It's like there's no off button. It's like
when the CD skips and you can't.
That's where I was. I'm like, shut up. Oh my God. Yeah, I was totally
Oh my
geeking out. My adrenaline was like pumping because we're talking about all this exciting action. And I'm just
It
like,
is. It's a very
whoa,
action-packed story today. Like,
slow down. You're not actually in a war right now.
I know. I'm like, but my imagination's so intense.
But
and
I'm there.
I'm in a flaming plane over the Soviet tundra. Ow!